What would you do if your father bought you a house for your birthday, but your stepmother gave it to her son and never told you? I found out at Christmas dinner. And that was the moment everything changed. It started with a question just 7 words said over roast turkey and candlelight. "Did you like the new house?" my dad asked, beaming. My fork froze mid-air. The room stilled. Every clink, every laugh, every fake smile around the table paused. "What house?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. That's when I saw her, Mara, my stepmother. Her wine glass trembled just slightly. Her smile faltered. Her entire face drained of color. She knew. Everyone at that table thought my dad had just made a sweet, casual comment. But for me, it was a grenade, and it detonated right there between the cranberry sauce and the stuffing, because I had no idea what he was talking about. But Mara did. And Kyle, her perfect son, did too. That house was meant for me, a 20th birthday gift, a gesture from a father who spent more time in hotel rooms than at home. Something solid, something mine. But I'd never seen it, never heard of it, because it had already been given away to someone else. I wasn't always this invisible. I used to be somebody's world before Mom died, before everything turned into shadows and silence. Her name was Elise. And when I think of warmth, I think of her. Laughter spilling into the kitchen, her arms wrapped around me, whispering stories about stars and faraway places. But she died during a routine surgery, just a blood clot. I was 5. Dad didn't fall apart. Not on the outside. He just disappeared into his work. He was a civil engineer. Bridges, highways, the kind of things that don't hug you back. At first I lived with Aunt Laura, then Grandma. Then finally he brought me back home, but it wasn't home anymore, because Mara was there, and so was her son Kyle. They moved in when I was 9. Mara was polished, poised, PTA gold. She ran the household like a 5-star hotel, but to me, I was the dust she politely swept around, the leftover. Kyle got the big bedroom, the praise, the new phone, the front seat. I got silence, secondhand sweaters, and gentle reminders to be more grateful. Dad would drop in twice a year, a forehead kiss, a question about grades, and a promise I was strong like your mom. Then he'd vanish again to Singapore, Qatar, Vancouver, somewhere far enough away that no one could reach him. And so I learned how to disappear quietly, not abused, just erased. They didn't hit me. They just never saw me. Family dinners without an invitation, school recitals without a single familiar face, birthday cakes with no candles and no songs. By the time I was a teenager, I didn't ask for space, or fairness, or attention. I just learned how to live small. But the real betrayal, the moment that would redefine everything, was still to come. Mara always made it look effortless, being in control. The perfect meals, the spotless living room, the compliments from neighbors who never stayed long enough to see what she was really like. But if you paid attention, you could see the cracks. You could feel the air shift when she smiled too wide or corrected you just a little too sweetly. She called Kyle her miracle. She called me Callie, like it was an inconvenience. Every time she praised Kyle, I felt a door close. He got the newest everything. She posted about his football games, his honor roll, even his stupid pasta-making TikTok. But when I got accepted into a local art program, she blinked and said, "That's cute. A hobby is good for girls your age." Dad congratulated me over a fuzzy Zoom call from a hotel in Dubai. That was the whole celebration. Once I asked if I could hang my watercolor painting in the hallway, a rainy street corner, moody and quiet. She looked at it for less than a second. "That's lovely, Callie. Maybe in your room." I never offered another thing. Years passed like that. I didn't fight. I shrank. Then about 3 months before Christmas, I was scrolling social media when I saw it. A photo. Mara and Kyle standing in front of a 2-story colonial with a red door, arms around each other, smiling. The caption said, "So proud of my boy. New beginnings." I felt something in my chest tighten. New beginnings. What beginnings? I didn't ask. I didn't want to deal with the gaslighting that would follow, but then Christmas dinner happened, and that one innocent question from my father, "Did you like the house?" ripped through everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling, my body numb, but my mind on fire. I had to know. So before dawn, I crept into Dad's study. Mara never liked that room, said it was too dusty, too cluttered. I always thought it smelled like old paper and memories. I opened the file cabinet with trembling fingers. I wasn't looking to expose anyone, I just wanted to prove to myself I wasn't crazy. And there it was, a manila folder labeled Property Hollow Pine. I pulled it out, heart pounding. Inside were printed emails. Subject lines like house purchase confirmation, transfer of deed, gift title for Callie Monroe. My name was there, typed clean and proud. The documents were dated from months ago. The transaction had gone through. The house was paid in full. One email stuck with me the most. Dad had sent it from Dubai. To be delivered to Callie on her 20th birthday. Mara had replied, "All received. I'll make sure she gets it." That birthday had passed 3 months ago. No key, no ribbon on the door, no mention of any house. Just that photo online, Kyle's new beginning. That night, I scanned the documents, my hands shaking. I wasn't just forgotten. I was overwritten. She took a home that was mine, a fresh start, a place I could finally breathe, and she handed it to someone who already had everything, and Kyle. He just smiled in that picture, clueless or complicit, I didn't know yet. But I was done wondering. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe I thought seeing it would make it easier to let go. Maybe it would feel like someone else's place, something distant and unreachable. But when I turned onto Hollow Pine Lane and saw the house, it hit me like a memory I never got to have. A soft blue colonial with pale shutters and that bright red door like something out of a dream. Quiet street, trimmed hedges, wind chimes whispering from a porch hook. It was peaceful. It was perfect. And it was mine. At least it should have been. But the mailbox didn't say Callie Monroe. It said Kyle Preston. I parked across the street and sat in the car engine off, fingers clenched on the wheel. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears. Then the door opened. Kyle stepped out in joggers and a hoodie, a bag of trash in one hand, his phone in the other. He looked relaxed, casual, like he belonged there, like it had always been his. He tossed the bag in the bin, adjusted his hoodie, and walked back inside without even glancing in my direction. He didn't see me, but I saw everything, and it gutted me. Because he wasn't the villain, not really. Kyle wasn't cruel. He didn't mock me growing up. He didn't have to. He lived in a world where everything already belonged to him. And me, I was just a guest in my own life. A week before, I'd been eating ramen in my cramped bedroom, counting tips from the art store while this house sat here. Gifted legal, waiting for me. But Mara made sure I never saw it. I thought about walking up to the door, knocking, asking Kyle. Did you know, but I already knew the answer. Kyle always knew. Mara never made moves without his knowledge. They were a team. She probably even asked him what color curtains to get. He probably helped move in the couch. Why wouldn't he assume it was for him? That's the way it had always been. Praise, privilege, property, all his. I stayed in the car for 20 more minutes, just watching, breathing, letting the truth settle into my bones. And then I left. Back at Mara's house, I didn't say a word. I didn't throw a fit or slam a door. I just watched her sipping wine and laughing at a sitcom like her world was exactly as she wanted it. Because it was. She had Kyle settled in his new home, and me still under her roof, still silent, still small. The lie had held for years, but one question at dinner had cracked it wide open. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up rereading the scanned documents, the deed, the date, the email that said it was to be delivered on her 20th birthday. It was mine, legally, rightfully. But Kyle had the keys, the welcome mat, the life, The more I stared at those files, the more something shifted in me, not fury, not revenge. Resolve. Mara had written me out of the story. I was going to write myself back in. The dining table looked like a magazine cover. Silverware polished to a mirror shine, crystal candlesticks flickering soft golden light, holiday napkins folded like origami stars. Mara always staged perfection. Every holiday was her performance, every guest a carefully placed prop. But this time, she didn't know the script had changed. Dad was home, freshly shaved, looking rested for once. He sat at the head of the table, flanked by Mara on one side and Kyle on the other. I sat across from them, boxed in by uncle's cousins and people who called me sweetheart but never asked me about my life. The roast turkey had just been carved when it happened. So Callie... Dad smiled warmly. Did you like the house every fork stopped mid-air? I looked at him, then at Mara, then at Kyle. My throat tightened. What house, I asked. Calm, steady, almost polite. Dad chuckled like I was joking. The one on Hollow Pine. I had the deed transferred months ago. Didn't Mara show you on your birthday, Silence? Mara's hand hovered over her wine glass. Kyle looked down at his plate. The air changed, heavier, tense. I took a breath and said it clearly. No, I didn't get anything on my birthday. No key, no letter, no house. Dad blinked. When I turned to Mara, my voice still level. Would you like to explain? Her laugh was too high, too brittle. Callie, don't be dramatic. That house, it was too far from your school and you were already settled here. It just made sense for Kyle. You gave it to Kyle, I said, my voice cutting through the room. A cousin dropped his fork. Someone coughed into a napkin. You told Dad you'd give it to me. I continued. You emailed him. I read the emails. I saw the deed. It had my name on it. Mara's face had drained of all color. Her mouth opened, but no words came. Kyle shifted in his seat, visibly uncomfortable. Dad turned to Mara, his voice low. Is that true? She looked desperate now. Richard, please don't make a scene. It's Christmas. Answer me. She swallowed. I didn't think she needed it. She's barely holding a part-time job. She's not even out of community college. She didn't have a plan. Kyle needed a place. He's going to graduate soon. He's responsible. I made that house for Callie, Dad snapped. His voice shook. I sent the money. I put her name on it. That was her birthday gift. You were gone, she shouted, her composure cracking. Someone had to make a decision. So you made it for yourself, I said quietly. The room fell into stunned silence. I could have left it there, let Dad take over, but I had waited years for this. So I stood up. I've lived in this house like a guest since I was 9. I've watched Kyle get everything attention space praise and now property. I didn't ask for much, but that house... that was finally something that was mine, and you stole it. My hands were shaking, but I didn't care. You smiled through it, lied through it. And Kyle, I turned to him. You moved in knowing it wasn't yours. You didn't even ask why your name was on the mailbox. Kyle muttered, I didn't know. You always knew, I said flatly. Dad leaned back in his chair like someone had knocked the air out of him. You told me you'd take care of things, Mara, he said quietly, that I could trust you. She's being ungrateful. Mara snapped, desperate now. No, Dad said louder this time, loud enough to make a cousin flinch. She's being honest. For the first time, someone is. Then he turned to me, his voice cracking. Callie, I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing something right for once. I didn't know. I know, I replied, and that's why I'm not angry at you. I reached under the table and pulled out the manila folder I had brought with me just in case, but I won't let this go quietly either. I laid the folder on the table. Golden brown turkey, twinkling lights, whispered gasps, and right in the middle of it all, legal proof that the story they'd been telling themselves was about to end. I spoke to a lawyer, I said clearly. The deed is in my name. The transfer was notarized and filed. The house is mine. Silence. Then the kind of gasp that sounds like someone realizing they're not the center of the universe anymore. Kyle stood up so fast his chair screeched against the tile. "Are you serious?" "I'm done being erased," I said, eyes locked on him. "You had your place in this family. Now I'm taking mine." Mara stood too. Her napkin fluttered to the floor like a white flag. "You're tearing this family apart." "No," I said calmly. "You did that when you stole something that wasn't yours and called it love." I picked up my coat and walked out. The night air slapped me with cold, but it felt cleaner than anything inside that house ever had. I sat on the front porch, coat wrapped tight, watching snow start to fall. The street was quiet, untouched, like the world was offering me a reset, a moment to exhale, a place to begin again. 20 minutes later, Dad joined me. He didn't say anything at first, just sat beside me like he was trying to remember how to be a father. I didn't know he said at last. His voice cracked. "Callie, I truly didn't know. I thought I was giving you something that would show you I hadn't forgotten, that even when I was gone, I was still thinking of you." He stopped, swallowed, looked away. "I trusted her," he admitted. "I thought Kyle would be like a brother to you. I thought you thought wrong," I said gently, not cruelly, just truthfully. She made it look like I didn't exist, and I started to believe her. His eyes filled again, but this time he didn't blink it away. "I should have been here," he whispered. "I missed everything. Your drawings, your birthdays, your life, and yet I said you were the only one who tried to give me something real." He looked at me then fully, and for the first time in years I felt seen. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small wrapped box, green paper, handwritten tag to Callie, from Dad. "I was going to give you this after dinner," he said, awkward. "It's nothing big." I opened it. Inside was a red key, not to the house, but to a small lockbox. "I filled it with all the letters I meant to send," he said softly. "All the times I wanted to say I missed you but didn't know how. I held it like glass, not because it fixed everything, but because it meant something finally belonged to me." The next 2 weeks passed like a slow thaw. Kyle moved out without a word, just a text to Dad that read, "I've left the place clean." I never responded. There was nothing left to say. But the day I stepped into the house on Hollow Pine alone, finally legally, it felt like the universe was exhaling on my behalf. The sun poured through the windows like an apology. The walls were bare, the air still. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a guest. The house was quiet when I opened the front door. No furniture, no voices, no one watching from the sidelines, waiting to see if I'd fold myself smaller to fit. It was mine. The hardwood floors echoed beneath my feet. The windows let in so much light it felt unreal. I walked barefoot through the living room into the kitchen down the hall, touching the walls like they were memories waiting to be written. I didn't bring much, just 2 boxes of clothes, my sketchbooks, coffee-stained art supplies, and the little red lockbox Dad had given me. I placed it on the shelf by the fireplace right in the center, not tucked away, not hidden. It belonged here, just like me. Over the next few weeks, I transformed the house slowly, carefully, deliberately, the way someone builds a life they've always been denied. I painted the hallway walls white, clean, new. The kitchen got soft moss green, calm, steady. My bedroom navy blue, deep, bold, like dusk. And by the front door where every guest would pass, I hung the watercolor painting Mara once dismissed. The rainy street corner, the quiet sadness, the one she told me to hide. Now it was the first thing people saw, and people did come. Friends dropped by with candles and succulents. One brought a handmade welcome home sign. My professor from community college mailed me a handwritten card that said, "You're exactly where you were meant to be. Never let anyone convince you otherwise." I cried reading it, because it was the first time someone had said it out loud. Dad showed up every Saturday after that. He never made excuses, never tried to explain away the past. He just showed up. Tool belt on sleeves rolled, fixing the leaky faucet, repainting the shutters, helping me rebuild something neither of us had the language for yet. Sometimes he brought coffee, sometimes groceries. Once he brought a box of old photos I'd never seen pictures of me and Mom before everything went quiet. We didn't talk much about Mara or Kyle. We didn't need to. That chapter had ended. In the evenings, I sat on the porch with a mug of tea and let myself dream. Not about revenge, not about being seen, just about being. I filled the spare room with canvases and color. I applied for a local design grant, something I never would have dared to do while living under Mara's shadow. And weeks later, I won. The grant paid for upgraded supplies, mentorship hours, and a gallery showing in the spring. Me, the invisible girl, the forgotten one, now a recognized artist. I even named the first piece Inheritance. It was a house on a hill bursting with light. And no one could take it away, because this house wasn't just wood and paint, it was proof. That silence doesn't mean surrender. That being forgotten doesn't mean being erased. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is take back the story they tried to steal from you. Then write a new one in bold, permanent ink. I was never allowed, but now I didn't have to be. I had a front door that opened just for me, a mailbox with my name on it, a life I wasn't apologizing for anymore, and a future I wasn't asking permission to enter. Have you ever been made to feel invisible by the people closest to you? Share your story below, and if you've ever taken your power back, tell us how. Like, subscribe and comment we're listening. Your voice matters here.